Welcome to the Medical Manners Podcast, where I give healthcare providers simple tips for ways they can transform the way they connect with their patients and colleagues. Connecting with patients isn't some secret sauce that some of us have and others don't. They're just skills, implemented consistently over time. If you want to transform your medical practice, you're in the right place. I'm Katie Wyatt, your host. Well, Becca, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and talking with me. I'm super excited to have you here. Becca is actually my sister. And because this is my first interview style podcast that I've recorded, I asked her if she would do it with me because that way we could work through kind of all the bumps and the kinks. So thanks, Becca, for being the guinea pig.
I'm so excited to do it.
Awesome. Well, on this podcast, one of my main goals is to educate healthcare providers on how we can connect with patients. And I think in order to do that best, we need to go to the source, to the experts on that. And the experts on that are our patients, right? You guys are the ones that are receiving healthcare. You're the ones that know what you like. And so we're going to have patients interviewed on this podcast so we can get the expert opinion. So, Becca, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about the last, how many years has it been?
7.5.
Hey, tell us, maybe take us back 7 3/4 of a year and kind of tell us your story.
Okay. So in 2017, I was pregnant with my fourth baby, and I believe I was 35 weeks pregnant. All of my stuff had been normal all the way through. I'd had that big testing that they do like around 28 weeks. Everything looked great. And then 35 weeks hit, and I had gotten my toddler up out of bed and was rocking her in the rocking chair. And I looked down and realized that her hand was on my hand and I couldn't feel it on my hand. So I thought, like, this is weird. Maybe when you're pregnant, just your body feels weird in general.
Everything's weird.
So
Yeah.
everything's weird. So I just thought, like, weird. I must be like sitting on a nerve, weird or funny. And so then she slid down my lap to get off, and I realized I couldn't feel her on my leg, my left side, sliding off my leg. So again, I thought, like, oh, that's really weird. The long story short of it is that I was totally numb in my left arm and hand and had little to no control of it. And my left leg was functional but numb. And then just as this went on, I also just started feeling weird. Well, still at this point, I just thought something crazy is happening in my pregnancy. I thought, oh, like, I wonder if this is preeclampsia. I wonder if is my blood pressure really high and it's making me feel off?
Yeah.
And so I called my mom to come and watch my kids and for my husband to come take me to the hospital. And so they came, and I was able to walk still because my left leg was functional, but I couldn't do anything with my hand or control it at all still. So, like, putting on my seatbelt, couldn't do any of that. Anyway, we drove to the hospital, and I still was just thinking, this is like, I'm about to go have an emergency C-section. I
Right.
knew something was very wrong.
Right.
Like, but I just thought it was pregnancy related. And as soon as they got the baby out, then
Things are
we'd
fine.
be home free. So we pull up to the emergency room. My husband ran in, and of course, as soon as he told them my symptoms, they come sprinting out with a wheelchair. And I remember just kind of rolling my eyes like, I am fine.
This is so
Like,
dramatic.
like, I just need to see my OB.
Yeah.
Anyway, they wheeled me into whatever, probably triage, and did a few quick tests, like having me squeeze their fingers and I think probably close my eyes and hold my hands up in the air, stuff like that. And very quickly they were like, we think this is a stroke. We need to get you in for an MRI. So wheeled me back, went into the MRI, and the imaging did show clotting and damage on my brain. How detailed do you want me to go into this?
I think that's perfect. So
Okay.
maybe I think people be interested in, so you were diagnosed with a stroke. Now what's happening with baby? Kind of how does that transition look?
Okay, yes. So the whole time I was in there, I was mostly concerned about my baby. And as I was preparing to talk to you about this, I just thought this is an interesting case because I was a patient. I was also a mom, like
Mm-hmm.
to my baby. So I was a patient, but I was mostly worried about my baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really thinking about myself very much. So as they're doing all the tests, I'm saying, can we check on the baby? Can we check on the baby? Of
Mm-hmm.
course, they being the medical professionals know they need to make sure I'm okay first,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can check on the baby. So they had got me to the point where they knew I was stable. Then they did an ultrasound for my baby, and they did a virtual call to, we have a big children's hospital here, Primary Children's. And
Mm-hmm.
so they did a call with an OB team there and the neurology team there so that we could determine what the next steps needed to be as far as the baby and me.
Gotcha. Okay. And if I remember right, you stayed in the hospital. Did you stay in the hospital the whole time till you delivered?
No, so when I first went to the hospital, I just went to the one closest to me. When we did that virtual consultation with the bigger hospital,
Mm-hmm.
they wanted me to transfer up there. So I
Gotcha.
went in a ambulance to the University of Utah Hospital, which is
Okay.
connected to Primary Children's. So then I stayed there for almost 2 weeks, a week and a half, I think, where I had an OB team from the Children's Hospital that was keeping track and doing tests for the baby. And then I had a neurological team that was doing tests and helping me.
And you're right. That is a really interesting situation because you really were the patient and the worried mother of another patient.
Yeah.
And then you probably had your husband who is worried about both of you and trying to navigate all of that. So that really is an interesting, it's interesting. It's different than a lot of patients.
Yeah.
So in that time, obviously like a scary, crazy time for you and your family, is there anything that sticks out that a healthcare provider, and I don't care if it's a doctor, a nurse practitioner, physician's assistant, nurse, medical assistant, like just those people that were caring for you, is there anything that any of them did or said that really stuck out to you as being a meaningful thing?
One thing I think that was amazing looking back is that I think at almost every turn, the people who were caring for us were reading the room in in how my husband and I were dealing with it, which for us happened to be humor. It was like how we needed to get through it right away. Like the minute I found out I had a like a stroke and a clot, I was like, "Oh, it's our fifth child, Claudia.
You named
She's."
your clot.
I named my clot
Yes.
Claudia, and we always talk about our problem child, Claudia, who is my clot. And I know I still can remember the first doctor's face. Like he was a little bit shocked that, that just like right away then I was joking about it, and but they just kind of rolled with it, and I think they could sense that this is kind of how we needed to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they then took on a more lighthearted approach,
Mm-hmm.
and I just really appreciate that. I think it helped because that's kind of what I was needing to get through it. It helped me stay positive. It helped me, I don't know, just keep in a good mindset. And I'm saying that because I know, like, I was in I was in the same unit with lots of people who had had strokes,
Mm-hmm.
and this is not how they were dealing with other
Yeah,
patients.
this is not normal. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, also, I was okay,
Yeah.
and we all knew that too, and that's why I could kind of joke with it to help me through the healing of it,
Mm-hmm.
but they also read that off of me and came there with me.
Perfect. Perfect. And so one of the things I coach healthcare providers on is pouring happiness into the lives of their patients. And that can be a hard thing. Like you said, you were okay. And so it was really easy to join with you in like joy and laughter and humor. That was probably an easier thing. For patients who maybe were having a debilitating stroke, where they were going to have lifelong side effects from this, those healthcare providers, I educate them to pour encouragement into the lives
Yes.
of their patients. And I think that whether it's humor or whether it's happiness or whether it's encouragement, like those are all lifting words, right? And so I love that you said that in your case, that was humor and that was a lifting, elevating thing. So I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, and with you saying that, there was about an hour of time when I was struggling with my speech, and that was scary, and I was not joking during that time.
Mm-hmm.
But like you just said, the healthcare providers around me were nothing but encouraging. They were, as you guys are so amazing at, just calm, cool, collected. I felt like I can trust them to do what they need to do. I could kind of let go of the fear because I could tell that they had a plan and knew what they were
Mm-hmm.
going to do. And they, like you said, just spoke encouragingly.
I love it.
So,
I love it. And I feel like we do need to mention, along with your humor thing, one of my favorite things about you and your husband is every year you celebrate your stroke anniversary.
yes,
And that is my favorite thing. I love it. You have a little party on your stroke anniversary every year.
yes.
Love it.
It is one of our favorite traditions. We love it so much. We play. See, this is the problem. And I have to talk my kids through it, telling them, like, at our house, we can laugh and joke about a stroke, but you can't go out in the world and laugh and joke,
And laugh about people's strokes.
because on our anniversary or on my stroke anniversary, we have a cake, we play one armed games, like just
Oh, I
we live
love
it up
it.
because it's just a way for us to celebrate this huge thing that we went through and came out of the other side, and that really I'm quite lucky to be out the other side of.
I love that. I love that. And another thing you said sparked something in my mind. So you said you felt confident in them. And so you were able to trust them and kind of let them carry. You didn't feel like you had to carry so many emotions because they were going to carry some of those for you. They were going to take care of it. You were confident. Was
Yes,
there ever a time? So, something I always train healthcare providers on is it's okay if you don't know everything because you don't. And it's really important to be confident in what we know. It is also equally important to say, I need to call someone else in on this. And I mean, that happened with you, right? They did the initial hospital that you went to was not set up to handle your complexity of case. And
yes,
so they did that Zoom call and they pulled in the U of U and primary children's and they kind of phoned a friend, right? And that in your mind, do you ever look down on those people that had to call for help because they did not know how to handle your case?
absolutely not. Because I think they could have easily sent me home thinking, or like kept me for a little while and sent me home thinking like, oh, her symptoms seem to be sort of improving a little bit. Like I wasn't feeling as weird is what I mean
Mm-hmm.
by that. But the fact that they would call in somebody else to make sure that the calls they were making were the right calls, that's what made me feel like, okay,
Confident.
you've got me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on this same train, once they sent me up to the U, they could not figure out what had caused my stroke. That's part of why I was in the hospital for so long. And the doctor and his whole team would come in every morning. They'd talk me through, like, okay, now these are the tests we're going to run today we just want to double check on this. We want to make sure about, about all of these things. We still don't know what's causing this. And we feel like we need to have an idea before we send you home,
Mm-hmm.
because this case is so rare, because all of the factors, people do have strokes during pregnancy, but I didn't have any of the factors that a average,
Typically, yeah.
yes, thank you, yeah, would
Right.
have
Your cholesterol was fine. You didn't have diabetes. I mean, you were
yep,
really a picture of health other than you had just had a stroke and you were
yes,
pregnant.
yes. So anyway, so that too, the fact that they were willing to do tests, to stick with it when it wasn't just so obvious what had caused it, that also gave me a lot of trust in them.
I love that. So, kind of as healthcare providers, we can know where our boundaries are and actually admitting to what we are good at and then what we are not is actually a really awesome thing to do to build trust and confidence between us and our patients. So, awesome. The other topic I wanted to cover with you is a topic that's been on my mind because I know I've heard you discuss it with me. And then I was chatting with a friend of mine who has breast cancer currently, and she said the exact same thing. And so it's just been on my heart because I feel like it is a common thing among people that have gone through a semi traumatic health experience, medical experience. So I'm going to call it being a hypochondriac, but I feel like that's not the right title for it. I just don't know what the right title is for it. But just the fact that now you're fine, you had your baby, you, for the most part, are symptom free from your stroke. I mean, I know you have a little bit of residual hand weakness and you've been working on that, but you're back to normal life for the most part. And now you'll have days where you feel weird. So
Yes.
kind of talk us through what that looks like because okay, here's the thing. Becca and I grew up in a home. I honestly can only remember going to the doctor twice. Once for strep throat and once for a volleyball physical my junior year of high school. I mean, mom got us our vaccines when we were kids, so I'm sure we went to well child checks, but once we had all our vaccines, we didn't go to well child checks. I mean,
No.
you had to be dying to
Yeah.
go to the doctor in our household. And so we're very much raised with the mentality that we're fine. Your leg hurts, you're fine. So kind of walk me through how that's been mentally and emotionally for you now learning to navigate how this looks now in your life.
Yeah. It has been a journey because, like you said before, I thought nothing of it. In fact, if I wasn't pregnant, I wonder if I would have even gone in.
You probably would
Or
have
if
taken a nap.
I probably would have been like, oh, this is weird. I better just sleep it off. Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny story, I guess it's not funny, but after I had my baby, they had told me we've got to be extra careful with clotting after you have your baby. So if you feel short of breath, if you feel your heart racing, you need to come into the emergency room. So okay, that's fine. Well, one night in the middle of the night, I had gotten up to use the restroom, gotten back in bed, and just felt my heart racing, 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 and feeling like I was having a little bit harder time breathing. And so I thought, this is for
This
sure,
is
like I'm
it.
having a clot. So I woke up my husband. We had a friend come over to for our kids. We went back to the hospital. They, of course, took this seriously because I had just had a stroke. So they did ultrasounds on my legs and everywhere. And I was totally fine. And so they said, I think this is just anxiety, and which I had never dealt with before.
Mm-hmm.
And so, off we went home. Well, now, yeah, sometimes I'll feel weird. And the thought is, I have two thoughts now that go through my mind. What if it's something really serious that I just am telling myself, no, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And I'm thinking, but also remember that one time I went in and then it was nothing.
Yeah.
And so I find myself just in this mental battle whenever anything is happening, when I feel any sensation in my body. It's is this real? Is this just my imagination? I need to take it seriously if it's something real. I have had a stroke in the past. I
Yeah.
like that gives me a higher chance of having one. It could be very real that this is something real. And even even I get to the point where my left hand will stop functioning as well, and it'll be much slower grabbing things. Like, our minds are so powerful that
Mhm.
this is really happening, and I have to try to figure out, is this my brain telling me this is happening, or is this actually happening?
Mhm.
And it is a hard and emotionally draining line to be walking.
Yes, for sure. And I think that's so important for us as healthcare providers to know because this is bad and I don't want to admit it, but I'm going to admit it. We call people that come in frequently frequent flyers, right? We'll be like, oh, they're a frequent flyer. And we shouldn't, right? That's mean. We should not say that, but we do because we have frequent flyers.
And you've got to get through your workday somehow.
And right, sometimes we find humor just as you did in your stroke. But I think that it's really important for us to realize that most of the time, our frequent flyers, there's two things typically with our frequent flyers. One is that they have had either they or their family has had a traumatic medical event. And because of it, their perception of normal symptoms is is a little off. Like just like you, they're in this mental limbo place where they're like, is this something or is it not? And what do I do about it? So that's one category. I feel like the other category of our frequent flyers are people that have struggled with mental illness for years. And because of that, it is very difficult for them to figure out is this a symptom? Is this anxiety? But regardless of which category it is, I think it's so important for us to hear your story and realize kind of the turmoil that's going on before you even call us or come in.
Yeah.
And then at the point where you come into us, we need to realize that there's been a lot that's gone on for you to even decide, okay, I think this is real. I think I have to go get it checked out. And I think knowing that would change the way we treated you when you were in our office. At least it changes when I think about you or when I think about my sweet friend. I treat patients differently who are my frequent flyers.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and realizing too that so being someone who was raised in a house where we didn't go to the doctor, I have such a fear of being a frequent flyer
yeah.
that I like sometimes my husband is like, maybe you should go in. And I well, okay, I had a kidney stone last year
I
and I
forgot about
had it
that.
for a month before I went in because I thought, oh, it's probably nothing. It's probably nothing. No, it was a kidney stone that they had to go in and blast.
Right.
So this I almost am on the other extreme
Yes.
where I don't want to be going in at everything, but maybe I need to be going more frequently.
Right. And I would say you are totally on the other extreme. Like you are not a frequent flyer. You have every right to be a frequent flyer because you've had a stroke and an odd stroke, but you're not a frequent flyer still. But right, just the idea of like, I know if you call me for something, it's probably been going on a while. You've probably been thinking about it for a long time. And so I take it very seriously when you call me because you don't just call me when
Yes.
little things happen. So,
Yes. And I guess maybe that is my point, is that maybe too there's people that lots of things have been happening or it's been happening for a long time, but they're trying not to go in when it's not actually something.
right,
So, anyway,
right. Perfect. Okay. Well, and then just real quick to wrap us up, since that time, I know you've had a little bit of a hard time finding the right provider for you because you really needed an internal medicine doctor,
yep.
but you were how old? in your
I
20s.
was 28.
Right. So you were a 28-year-old, otherwise healthy female who now needed an internal medicine doctor. I know that's been hard for you to find, and I know that you have one now that you love. So maybe just if you want to end with some of the things that are really meaningful and that you love about your current provider.
I love a few things about her. Number one, she is not afraid to tell me what she thinks is going to be the best thing for me to do. But she says it in a way that empowers me to be part of the decision making team. And she will explain why she thinks that it's important that whatever it is, she wants to
Mm-hmm.
do a blood draw. This is why I think we need to keep an eye on your vitamin D levels. I should say that what they found with my stroke is that I was I was low on iron, B12, vitamin D, a few others, but enough that like I had an iron transfusion in the hospital and B12 shots that I had to give myself for weeks. Anyway, so because of that, we have to keep a really close eye on my vitamin levels. And the doctors before that, I kept telling them, I need your help watching this.
Mm-hmm.
And they would say, I think you're just fine. I think you're just fine. And I just felt so frustrated that I knew my history and I was trying to explain to them why I felt it was important to have their help keeping an eye on it. And I didn't feel like I was getting support there. But with her, she listened to those concerns, she takes them seriously. I've been able to offload that mental load onto her because she now keeps track of making sure that we're doing that regularly, of letting me know what the numbers are looking like, of adjusting my doses to things so that my levels stay in a healthy range. And it's just so nice to have a doctor who I feel like is taking the load off of me having to be my own doctor when I don't have any knowledge
Right.
of how to
Right.
do it.
So you said she listened. She let you be part of the care plan.
Yes.
And so another word I would say for her carrying part of your emotional load, that's empathy, right? Empathy is the ability to see and understand someone's emotions and to try to carry part of that emotion.
Yeah.
So that's what I hear you saying, which is awesome that she did.
Yep.
Cool.
And even just keeping track, it sounds even funny to say this because why did I have to work so hard to find a care provider that would help keep track of my health?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't coming through multiple people that I went to. And she's the first person that she's taken that on. She's put it in her system. So it's almost like I don't even have to think about it. All I have to do is schedule appointments to come in.
And
And
she's
then
got it.
she's on top of all of the things that I used to have to worry about.
That is awesome. I love that. And I'm so glad you found her. So glad. Do you mind telling us her name, like in case anyone else in your area is looking for a great healthcare provider?
Yes, her name is Carolyn Belfry. And do you need to know where she works? Like which clinics?
Maybe just like the general area,
Okay, I'm in Ogden area.
Ogden, Utah. Okay, so Carolyn Belfry in Ogden, Utah. Good job, Carolyn.
Yep.
You're
And
awesome.
just props to all of the U of U and primary children's doctors too. Everyone I came in contact with there.
They were
Good.
phenomenal.
Yep.
That's awesome. Thank you, Becca. I really appreciate you coming on here and talking with us. I know that reliving past medical experiences can be tough emotionally, and I really appreciate you being willing to come on here and share your story with us so that we as healthcare providers can become better at doing what we do. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're a patient and have a great story about a time that a healthcare provider gave you awesome care, or you're a healthcare provider who has a story about a colleague or yourself who gave incredible care, I want to hear about it. Reach out to me at Medical Manners on Instagram or send an email to Katie, Katie, at medicalmanners.com. Together, we can transform the way we deliver healthcare by transforming the way we connect. Take care.